Okay, everyone, I'm going to call the Planning Commission meeting to order and ask you to all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Barb, if you'd be so kind to help me with the roll call, please.
Tim Eicher.
Here.
Dan Cahalan.
Here.
Dan Jashinsky.
Here.
Ed Merrick.
Here.
Laura Schultz.
Here.
Mike Hausman.
Here.
Kent Atwell.
Present.
And Robert Weiler is excused.
Excellent, thank you very much. All right, we will move on to the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the November 30th, 2022 minutes?
I'll move
Before you approve them, can I actually step in and ask that our correction be part of the approval? I was reviewing the minutes, and I would ask that they be revised to include that the time the meeting was called to order, which was 7 p.m., and that it be indicated that the Pledge of Allegiance was recited.
I move to approve the minutes with said correction.
Second.
You got the first and the second? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. All righty. We will move on to number 5, citizens' comments on consent agenda items. Anybody like to make a comment on the consent agenda items only? Seeing none, citizens' comments for the consent agenda are now closed, and we'll move on to the consent agenda.
I'm sorry. Anything else can I speak on that?
That's not on the consent agenda. I'll make sure the next citizens' comments is where you'll want to speak. Okay? Alrighty, consent agenda. I have a question. Is the person for 6C and D, are they here tonight by chance? Yes. You are? Okay. If somebody would remove those two from the consent agenda, I'd like to call them up.
I'll make a motion to remove them.
Are you motioning to approve the others?
I'll second consent agenda approval for items A and B.
Okay, that was a curveball, Barb.
Laura's was to remove C and D, and my motion was to approve A and B.
I don't think I got a second.
I don't think she did.
You don't need a second to remove something from the
Yeah.
consent agenda,
Okay.
right? Correct?
We just need a motion to approve A and B.
That was me, and then Dan,
Dan.
Tim Eicher, and then Dan
Okay.
Jashinsky for the second on the approval of A and B.
All right, are you good with that? Yep, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention passes. So if you are here for Jacobs Boulevard or Heritage Drive owner, you are approved and you are free to go unless you'd like to stay. With the applicant for item 6C DLC 0803988002 383 Williamstown Suite 202, owner Williams Town Properties LLC, applicant Melissa Morrow, Gals on the Go project. The applicant is requesting approval of a business plan of operation for the nonprofit organization. Then we'll also speak to item D, DELC 0803988002 383 Williamstown Suite 201, owner Williamsburg Properties LLC, applicant Deanna Marciniak, Gals Institute. The applicant is requesting approval of a business plan of operation for their therapy service business. Thank you for coming up, ladies. If you could give us your name and address.
Sure. Just tell you. Hi, I'm Deanna Marinsik. My address for my home.
Is that mic on?
Yeah, I
You
don't
pull
think
the
it's
button on top towards you.
Lots of speaking events. This is
There
very
you go,
nervous.
perfect. Perfect.
Wow.
You look like a panel.
I'm Deanna Marinsik, 332 Lac La Belle Drive, Oconomowoc, but I am the owner of Gals Institute and the founder of Gals on the Go project. Gals Institute is a mental health clinic of a group of providers that are focused on prevention and healing for the community in Waukesha County. We're contracted with 9 school districts, 14 providers, and a nurse practitioner with no wait. We have seen the need of increased mental health services for our school communities in the area of Waukesha County, and so I have made the decision to expand my business and take over the top of the building that I currently have been approved to use in the past, and then adding 5 therapists and other resources for families and for individuals in schools that are needing mental health support. Through my work as a psychotherapist, I've also created curriculum on resiliency programs for kids in the school districts and in the community to help build self-esteem and prevention programs from drugs and alcohol and other issues that we're seeing today. And our foundation is now taken residency in that building in one space and is now going to be having their own address as we are growing in the need of support. So I am asking for approval for both of those to be able to allow us to take over the whole entire building that we are in now to be able to expand into further services.
Great. Yeah, the reason I asked to have you pulled off and come up because I wanted you to share your mission.
Oh, thank you.
And the importance it is to the community, and people that are watching or see this later will have gained some familiarity with the services that you provide.
I appreciate that. Yes, it's definitely a need, and we have 75 people on our wait list as of tonight, and so we're just really wanting, my passion is to really provide the prevention and healing for family members, being one that has lost a family member to mental health. And this is my new assistant clinic director, Melissa Maru, that's helping with the expansion of our programs.
Great.
Question?
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve items 6C and 6D on the consent agenda.
I'll second the motion. Dan?
We're good, Barb? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the
us good
services you
work.
provide.
Come and
Appreciate it.
visit anytime.
You can leave it on.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to number 7, public hearing. Public hearing number 1. Topic: planned development conditional use site plan. Location: unknown address on Genesee Street, DELC 0798953. Owner 3 Migos LLC. Applicant: Michelle and Michael Kelly. Matter: planned development conditional use site plan to operate a dental clinic. Is there anyone that would like to speak to public hearing number 1? Anyone that would like to speak to public hearing number 1 on the dental clinic? Seeing none, public hearing number 1 is now closed. Public hearing number 2. Topic: amend the zoning district for P1 public and semi-public use district to R4 single and 2-family residential district. Location: 439 St. John's Road, DELC 0792074, 411 St. John's Road, DELC 0792069, and DELC 0792078, and unknown addresses on Wisconsin Avenue and St. John's Road, DELC 0792073, and DELC 0792060. Owner: Hendricks Commercial Properties LLC. Applicant: Chris Miller, Miller Marriott LLC. Matter: amend the zoning district from P1 public and semi-public use to R4 single and 2-family residential district to accommodate a single-family residential subdivision. Sir, would you like to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
Good evening.
My
Name
name is
and address.
Steve Twillier. That's Thuilliez. And I live at 1311 DeKoven Street. 1311 DeKoven Street. So I just had 2 things I wanted to address there. I saw that with the medium zoning that was passed, that the new plan for Beacon Hills has reduced the amount of homes by 6 and added one more of the walking path like community spaces. Those 2 seem to be replacements for the vacating of Smythe and Farron Street. And I was hoping the Planning Commission would consider not vacating the streets. I don't think it's likely, but I still would like that personally, and I think a lot of people in the neighborhood would. I think for those of us that live there, it would more mirror our neighborhood to the north there across the other side of Wisconsin, where we have 3 individual blocks and houses all the way around the street. But if you decide to vacate the 2 streets, I would ask the Planning Commission to consider making the 2 walking paths and community spaces equal in square footage to the space that the streets currently take up. I believe, looking at the plan, it appears that the streets, just by looking at the map, that area that the street takes is wider than what they're proposing for the walking path strip. And I mean, I just feel that I don't see a reason why the city of Delafield should give the developer land to profit off of that really belongs to us. And then number 2, being on the center of DeKoven, years ago we had a flooding problem in the middle of that street because the Anderson comes down from the north. Wisconsin pitches a little bit back to the middle too. And so in a heavy rain, we used to get like almost a lake in the middle of the street. So about 15, 20 years ago, the Department of Public Works came and they put a couple of storm drains on either side of our street in DeKoven, right in the middle. And then they dug a trench down in front of, well, I own a duplex at 1305, 1309. They took and dug a trench all the way in the front of my house, in the front of that property, went under Wisconsin, and then dug a gigantic hole, filled it with gravel, and I think it's kind of like a leach bed, for lack of a better description. So all that water would come into the 2 storm drains. One came across the street. Then they vacated all the way down into that lot. And I think that is, I think that's lot 4 on that plan that leach bed is in. So I don't know what's going to be done about that. I don't know how you vacate that water out of that, but obviously we still need to be able to drain all our water down to somewhere in that plan. So, you know, as I look at it, it looks like maybe that park could be expanded to, or moved over a little bit, that space, and it could actually just be in there. But it is, I believe it's right where that lot 4 is. So I did have one more item, but I don't think we're talking about that tonight, and that would be the connector street from the golf course to Anderson. Is that for a different night? I can bring that up today.
You can bring
It's
up
not
whatever,
part of
yeah, you can bring up whatever you want.
I can. Oh, well,
I mean, it should be outside of this is the public hearing for Miller Perry.
Right.
so not right now.
Let's just say not.
Okay, well, I'll save it for another time then.
Okay.
But I
Sounds
still,
good.
but I disapprove of it.
Okay. Thank you for the
Well,
comments.
thank you very much. Merry
Yep.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. Who'd like to be next? Who'd like to be next for public hearing number 2? Going once, going twice. Public hearing number 2 is now closed. Okay, we will move on to citizens' comments for anything on or off the agenda that was not discussed or commented on previously. Any other topics anyone would like to speak to? Going once?
Is this the what when he wants to
Is
come?
there somebody putting their arm up?
Well, he wanted to talk about the golf course.
Oh, sure.
Oh, I can go back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can bring it up.
I wrote some.
Okay.
Yeah, it might save you a trip.
Maybe. So I'll just read right off of this because there's a lot of details. But so in regard to that Hendricks Golf Course project, I'd like the Planning Commission to consider eliminating the connection of that subdivision to Anderson Drive, which is meant to give a quicker access to Highway C for them. That road is barely wide enough for 2 vehicles. If you've ever drove down it, and there's another vehicle that's bigger than you, like a truck or a delivery truck, one of you has to stop so the other can get past. So it's not really, I don't think it's viable for a lot of traffic to come down that road. I don't believe that 50-unit subdivision needs more than the 2 outlets, which would be Oakwood Road on the north and then kind of connecting to Exeter on the south. But let's assume that the 25 homes on the south end do go out Exeter, and the 25 homes on the north end exit to Oakwood. That's still less than the 27 homes that are going to be on Wisconsin Avenue that are going to be exiting on the Highway C when that project's all done. Because I think it's 13 on the north side of Wisconsin, and then it's 14 on the south side of Wisconsin. Plus, on DeKoven and, I forget the other road, there are some houses in the middle of the block that come out that way too. So it actually probably is more like 30. So, you know, I mean, if Wisconsin can handle 25 to 30 cars up and down that street, I don't see why that subdivision golf course would need access to Anderson. I can see a walking path, that'd be great for them to get downtown. And then my last point about that is, if you have visitors that are going to that subdivision, and they're going to again be traveling, say, to the north end of that subdivision, and they're going north on Highway C, and they're using Google Map, you know how Google Map is. If it can save you 5 seconds, it's going to turn you on a street. It'll take you down some weird streets when you're on Google Map, just to save you a couple seconds. And so my thought is, instead of Google Map is going to have traffic start turning on Anderson instead of going up to Oakwood and going down Oakwood, which would be visitors, deliveries, contractors, anything of that nature, that people are using their Google Map to get to a destination because they're not familiar with it. So I guess that's all I've got to say. Thank you for letting me
Great.
speak.
Thank you again.
Yep.
All right. I believe there was nobody else. So citizens' comments are now closed. Okay. We'll move on to number 9A, unfinished business. DLC 0798953, unknown address, South 124 Genesee Street, owner 3 Me Goes LLC, applicant Michelle and Michael Kelly. Applicant seeks approval of a planned development conditional use site plan to operate a dental clinic. Welcome back.
You're good.
Amy, you want to kick us off, please?
Okay, so we've talked about this property a lot, so I think without having public comment, needing to re-explain it, we'll just get right into the changes. Last month, we went through all of the detail related to the site plan. So there really haven't been any changes made since the last meeting, except that they did more thorough stormwater management. They're still working through all of the conditions, but it has been determined that the facilities on site are large enough to accommodate the stormwater. So the site plan and the way everything is laid out will work. The only other questions I still had from the last meeting, they did submit catalog cut sheets and a lighting plan. They have that one pole light that's a little bit taller than normal. We talked about it at the last meeting. I do want to send that to a lighting engineer at SEH just to make sure that the ratios are appropriate. And then they did not propose any landscaping on the east side of this driveway. So originally, that was going to be a more significant stormwater basin. It isn't any longer, so there is an opportunity to put some landscaping there if you think that's reasonable. So those are really the only two items that I still have, hanging out there as concerns. Otherwise, they meet all of the ordinance requirements. You've talked about the use a lot. We looked at the architectural renderings at the last meeting. They'll propose signage at a later date, and then they'll need to come in with a detailed business plan of operation before opening. So with that, I did prepare a draft conditional use agreement for consideration to Common Council. I had the city attorney review that, so at your desk or by your computer or whatever is an updated agreement. So this one is pretty well spelled out the same as how the draft was with a few wording changes. And so with that, I recommend that Common Council that you make a motion to recommend that Common Council approve the conditional use amendment subject to the terms and conditions of the enclosed conditional use agreement, which is subject to attorney review, which has been done already, but you could leave that in there, prior to Common Council consideration and subject to review and approval by the Public Works Committee. So that is, glad I read that out loud.
Absolutely. I was waiting for the most important part.
So I did let the applicants know that they do need to come to Public Works. They do have the infrastructure with the sidewalk, and I did talk to Dan about that, and he thought it would be appropriate for it to go to Public Works regarding stormwater management and the sidewalk.
And I will make that motion that Amy said, unless you need me to reiterate it. No? Okay. I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Laura seconds.
Right, so I gave Barb a copy of the one that we're approving.
So with your motion that you're approving the enclosed conditional use, you should approve the conditional use that's been presented.
Okay. We'll start over on that. Motion to recommend that the common council approve the conditional use amendment subject to the terms and conditions of the enclosed, not of the enclosed, of the presented conditional use agreement this evening, which is subject to attorney review prior to common council consideration and subject to review and approval by the Public Works Committee.
And I'll second again.
Okay. Are we good? All right, is there any discussion?
I'll just comment that, just in good faith, work with Public Works and staff if there's something that seems appropriate for the east side of that driveway, the property line.
The only concern
There's
I
your
have
landscaping.
is obviously like we can't go up in the ETC stuff because they won't
Understood.
allow us.
That's why I
So
said.
that's going to limit half of that lot out already. And then the
I'm
other
just-
half is like obviously concerning with, long-term what you guys are planning for the city.
Understood. I'm saying just
Yeah.
so those
We'll work
people
with you
that-
with whatever needs
So
to be
I
done.
think
but-
usually to screen like vehicles coming
Yeah.
in and out and stuff, it's like a 4-foot tall evergreens are usually appropriate. So
Yeah, and
know
I
if
don't
there's-
mind putting in stuff. It's just a matter of figuring out like what we can put there and what we
It's
can't. Because
just-
ETC was really strict on like they were like, yeah, you can't go up with anything. Like they're real particular on what can be there.
looking for something,
Yeah.
even if it's seasonal grass or something that
Yeah.
grows up. Just to
Something temporarily there.
and I'm not making anything contingent upon that. I'm just
How
saying
about some
work with staff to, as you have been.
Yes, you've been working.
It's in everyone's
with us
best
pretty
interest,
well.
right? So,
We can get you some snowbanks in the wintertime.
Yeah.
I bet.
Well, and I mean,
it's happening right now.
one of the conditions is that the owner comply with the site civil building, landscaping, and lighting plans approved by the Plan Commission at this meeting and is further modified by the planner and engineer to just give it a little wiggle room.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right. That's why this is part of the comments and not part of the motion. So
Yeah.
that's all I have. It looks great.
Yeah.
Build it.
Nicely
Looking
done.
forward to it.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Another hurdle crossed.
So close.
Public Works, make sure you're on that agenda.
Okay, we'll move on to 9B, DLC 0792074-439 St. John's Road, DLC 0792069, and DLC 0792078-411 St. John's Road, and DLC 0792073 and DLC 0792060, unknown address on Wisconsin Avenue and St. John's Road, owner Hendricks Commercial Properties LLC, applicant Chris Miller. Miller Marriott Construction LLC applicant seeks approval of a zoning amendment from the P1 public and semi-public use district to the R4 single and two-family residential district to accommodate a single-family residential development on the property located between Wisconsin Avenue and St. John's Road.
Okay.
Amy?
So again, we've talked about this many times. Those 3 lots on the north end of Wisconsin Avenue are not part of the rezone request, just as a reminder. It's just the lots between Wisconsin and St. John's. The applicant's proposing to rezone it from P1, the public and semi-public use, to R4, single and two-family residential. You reviewed last month the well study and the traffic impact analysis. That entire analysis is posted on the website under the public hearing materials. So this area was originally platted a long time ago as 36 lots. He has reduced it down to 28 lots to comply with the land use plan amendment that was ultimately approved. And they've also tweaked some of the layout in order to protect some of the mature trees and provide a little bit more green space. The R4 zoning district requires the 7,900 square foot lot size. Their average lot size is over 10,000 square feet with some variability to allow for some front entry and some side entry garages. The attorney, so again, I did I drafted an ordinance for common council consideration, and the attorney already completed their review as well. So at your side, again, is an amended ordinance. What they did is they broke up my paragraph into 3 separate conditions, which is nice. It's a little bit cleaner. So I recommend, again, if acceptable, recommend that Common Council adopt the presented ordinance tonight that amends the zoning district on the subject properties from the P1 public and semi-public use to the R4 single and two-family residential district, subject to the additions contained in the ordinance presented tonight. And I think we can skip that the ordinance is subject to the city attorney review. I do have one change to letter A that I would like to, so I'm just going to read the three conditions so that it's clear what we want the ordinance to say. So condition 1, which I'm tweaking and I shared with you, Barb, a subdivision preliminary and final plat and site plan and appearance review submitted to the applicant and approved by the city in accordance with city's code of ordinances and in substantial compliance with the concept plan presented to the Plan Commission on December 1st, 2022. So with that one, I just tweaked like ands and ors, but I also added substantial compliance with the plan presented tonight because the applicant is still working through the stormwater management plan before presenting the preliminary plat. And there might be some really minor tweaks. I mean, you're still going to see 28 lots, and he's still proposing the green space areas, but there might be some lot line adjustments. And then condition B is any development of the property shall provide for the connection of sanitary sewer disposal facilities owned and operated by Delafield Heartland Water Pollution Control Commission. And letter C, the property shall revert back to its original zoning classification immediately prior to this ordinance adoption if, 1, a preliminary subdivision plat for the property is not approved by the city within 6 months of this ordinance adoption, or 2, a final subdivision plat for the property is not approved by the city within 12 months of the ordinance's adoption. So we want to make sure that if it gets rezoned, it's getting rezoned to what you've been reviewing.
And we always say that the zoning is the hook, the thing that we can hold over the developer's head. And if we don't have that wording in there, they could change and whatever else. And by putting that phrasing in there, we still keep our hook.
So I have maybe this is appropriate right now, but maybe not. But question one of the citizens' comments brought up, and that is, I'm wondering, because I understand, I like the plan I'm okay with vacating the streets. I think it's a win-win for everyone involved in a general sense. How are those properties maintained, or how are they managed as lots? Is that public property? Are those outlots that are available to the public? How is it maintained?
It will be maintained by the HOA, so it will be maintained by the lot owners.
So they'll be outlots, described as
So they're outlots with, and contractually it's open to the public for public use and access? Is that right, or? Correct. Okay.
And if I could point out, the two questions brought up today, the stormwater system that was put in place some time ago is actually in a right-of-way in front of Lot 4, so it's actually not on the lot, and that will remain in place. Like Amy said, we're working through some stormwater questions with SEH, so some of the lines may move around a little bit as we try and preserve trees and also do the stormwater management. It's probably have some rain gardens in some of the lots as well to help manage it. Secondly, the proposed walking paths are actually wider than the streets right now. So it's not like we're trying to take something and be weird about it. They're actually bigger than the streets themselves right now. So.
Well, I clearly get it. It's not without precedent. There's been vacations periodically that, most recent one that I think of that comes to mind is by Revere's Tavern.
Which is used all the time.
Wall Street Station, where that turned an awkwardly used road into a public walkway that connects people to the fish hatchery parking lot, to the shops down there, and it's well lit and it's well used. So would like to think that, so I'm just briefly stating some advantages in the vacation of that as far as benefits to not just the new homeowners, but the existing ones. There's no left and right turns going north or south out of those spraying headlights into their living rooms anymore. One thing, I mean, I know traffic's not heavy, but there's a, it enables, it gets rid of some impervious surfaces as well as drainage ditches and other things. So, and city doesn't have to repave them or plow them. I mean, there's a couple of wins for the city, so this isn't a gift. We're expecting it to be set up nicely so that people can use it appropriately. And the connectivity and encouraging walking to downtown instead of driving to park, even though it's only 5 blocks, is a huge win. I mean, get 5 more cars staying in garages and more people walking, I think is a good thing. So anyway, that's just my summary of, my response to it. It's not that we casually thought, yeah, well, no problem, get rid of the roads. There's a lot of give and take involved in that situation.
And then just to describe the contractual part of it, when he comes back with the preliminary plat and the site plan and appearance review, which is a condition of this rezone, we'll look at that, but the way they're proposed, they'll be outlots owned by having an undivided ownership by all of the lot owners, and they'll be responsible for maintaining them. However, they'll be similar to Hawthorne and Nagawicca Heights, public access easements that cover the outlots for access through them.
And you'll definitely want to work with the city engineer on that underground water storage. I thought we got an easement and went off the right of way. Maybe we just discussed that and decided to keep it on the right of way, but that's something I would take seriously. I don't recall for sure if we went and got an easement on that.
I don't see an easement in the documentation, but.
And maybe we didn't. I know we discussed that.
I know.
I think it's in the right of way.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I know that the engineers and Tom
They're aware
Haffer,
of
the
it.
administrator, are very aware of it and working through that as part of the stormwater management. I guess this is one of those questions of when it would be most appropriate for Chris to come to Public Works also. He may not be coming to Plan Commission for the preliminary plat until January or February.
I don't think we're going to get all the stormwater cleaned up in time. There was a 23rd submittal for Public Works and then a 28th for Plan Commission for January. I don't think we'll have all the engineering done by then, so good chance it'll probably be February.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, we'll be looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend that common council adopt the presented ordinance that amends the zoning district on the subject properties from P1 public and semi-public use district to the R4 single and 2 family residential districts, subject to the conditions contained in the enclosed ordinance.
The presented ordinance.
Yeah, the presented ordinance. I'm sorry.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Are we all good? Okay. All right. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Abstentions? Passes. Okay. Another step for you, Mr. Miller. Thank you. You have a good Christmas. All right, 10A DELC 0803003, 2410 Milwaukee Street. Owner John Shutter, Shutter Development LLC. Applicant Rebecca Ramage, Lake Country Growers CBD. Applicant seeks feedback regarding a conceptual plan to convert existing office space into a retail store for the sale of CBD oils and accessories. There you are. Hi, if you could just give us your name and address.
Yeah, so I'm Rebecca Ramage. My address is 36976 Bridlewood Lane in Economowoc, 53066.
Sounds great. Amy, you want to give us an overview, please?
Okay, so this is the Shutter property. You just reviewed that site plan improvement for repainting the siding west of Smiley Barn. The applicant would like to seek concept approval before making a formal business plan of business plan of operation application, and before finalizing all of her paperwork with the property owner. So she is proposing to convert office space into retail on this property. And it is a woman-owned hemp company that creates tinctures, gummies, lotions, oils, and pet treats, and also operates on a business-to-consumer model with an online store and retail partners and a boutique event sales. Struggling tonight. So the reason why it's not on the consent agenda is just to have you review this specifically because a CBD store is not specifically listed as a permitted use. It is a newer type of operation, so I don't know that it's listed in most zoning codes. But it is most closely related to a retail establishment that deals directly with consumers, which is part of the zoning district for B3 local and highway business, which this property is in. And then this type of land use per the zoning code also does require that all goods produced on the premise be sold on the premises. And according to the applicant, they don't produce the goods on the site, but they do some labeling and packaging of their products. So I guess the applicant, you can further explain your operation if you want, but she's just looking for feedback to determine whether or not she should pursue the property with the property owner and apply for that business plan of operation next month.
Yeah, that's basically it. So we're a farm-to-bottle hemp company. We grew about 10 acres of hemp in 2018, and then we sent that to a manufacturer where they extracted that and made it into oil for us. And then we work with a couple different manufacturers to put that into products that people use. So topical lotion, we sell at the German Christmas market. We're at Well House down here. We're at Jayla Boutique. We're in about 25 to 30 retail locations, including like Swan Pharmacy in Wauwatosa. And so we're just looking for a retail location. We didn't originally want a retail location because we launched during COVID. And now that we've got a sizable business, we're getting to the point that we're kind of outgrowing our space now. And so we're just looking to expand. So that's my business.
We had one before, didn't we?
Well, I think it's reasonable, and we had. I mean, so just gives us some history as far as you're looking for feedback.
Yeah.
We had an initial business plan of operation for something. I'm not going to even say it's similar. It's just it's in the same, associated with the same industry. A lot of their focus was on vapes and things that had a rather substantial amount of stigma to them that lots of people didn't want associated with a community with so many schools and so I'm being nice. So ultimately, they took feedback and altered, some of their signage and just names and stuff, name of their business and that, and they opened and failed almost immediately just for whatever reason. It probably wasn't anything to do with the product, but that's some of the history here. We deemed that it fit the zoning, and I think it's a perfectly legitimate use of, I don't see a problem with the business. What I'm saying.
Okay.
And I think that as long as you kind of keep some of our concerns in mind as far as what we had in the past, people were very concerned that it was like focused on the previous business on vape products and targeting a fringe element as opposed to the mainstream positive uses of the product.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's kind of like our whole mission is to try to help take that stigma away and really normalize it for the everyday consumer, which is like me. My kids go to St. Bruno's and Dousman. We are, mainstream in the sense of like we want to be very approachable to the community and just to really show that it's not like a stoner mentality. And we've been in business now for almost 4 years, and we've had marked growth every year. So we feel very strong as far as our business plan and business model goes that we could, support a retail location. If you want to check us out, lakecountrygrowers.com. I think you'll like what you see. Yeah.
We have gummy bear companies in the city.
Yeah,
that's right. We do.
But also, I mean, I don't know. Have you talked to the
we have a candy
business owners
manufacturer
nearby?
here.
I mean, have you talked to the
About the manufacturing force?
No. Well, that was an aside. But so we've got the toy barn right there, and I mean, do you know those folks at all?
I haven't met them, but the owner John was extremely nice. I met the scuba people at the end of the building,
Okay.
And I think there's another mechanic or something, a boat guy that's also in that building.
But from a feedback standpoint, I think it'd do yourself a lot of good to see what kind of, cooperative or cooperation, whatever you want to say it, between your neighbors, how your synergy might work out with the neighbors, just.
Yeah,
Instead
it
of-
sounded like John thought that they were a really nice knitted group there,
Sure.
and they felt like we'd fit in fine.
Okay.
So that was his feedback.
That's my feedback.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, I'm good with it. I actually went to your website, just, why not, right?
Hey, why not?
And, it's a very nice website, and you have
Thank you.
a lot of information on there. Did same thing, I did a little more research out there, and I don't see any kind of an issue, with going forward on that for you, so.
Amy, do we need to modify the zoning to plan for this? I mean, because if anybody's spending time in Illinois or Michigan, because THC, it's everywhere. And it's not what you'd expect. It's not some back alley stuff. It's storefront. If the laws change in Wisconsin, we can expect the same thing. So I'm just wondering if I have no issues with this whatsoever. I think, like I said, if you look outside the state, at the states where it's really grown substantially, we should expect it. It's going to be part of it.
So I believe that in the next year or two, there may be a larger effort regarding text amendments, and this is something we can certainly put on the list as a use. I mean, I definitely believe it fits within this retail establishment that deals directly with customers. I mean, it's the product that they're selling. But we can look at more specific language.
That's fine. Just a question. Certainly agree.
I'm sorry, but just so I'm correct, your product does not have THC in it.
Yeah, so we're legal in all 50
Yeah,
states.
so
We're
there-
FBI.
I don't want to equate the two
Right,
things.
exactly. They're very clearly
Because they are very,
delineated in
very
state law.
different.
Very different.
It's legal.
but
It's a legal business.
It's
Yes.
a legal business.
Which I'm sorry if I implied otherwise. It's very legal in Illinois and Michigan.
I
It's
know your
not
point
legal
is
in
that
Wisconsin.
because THC is legal in the other states, there's many more.
But this does not have
businesses.
THC. Their products don't have THC. It just comes from the male plant.
It's, It does have the legal THC, which is 0.3%, but everything that we do is legal and upstanding. So. We good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good
Do you
idea.
Do we need
plan
to-
on, since you're here, submitting signage with your business plan of
Yeah, I
operation
did get a couple
application?
quotes on that,
Okay.
so I do have that
Okay,
started.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Merry Christmas to you.
Good luck.
Merry Christmas.
Okay, number 10B, DLC 802017, DLC 0802-018, DLC 0802-019, and DLC 0802-980. Milwaukee Street, owner James Stern and Susan Ether Stern, applicant Susan Stern. Applicant seeks approval of a certified survey map to convert 4 legal lots of record into 2 lots of residential construction. Names and addresses, please?
Jim Stern, North 5683 Pioneer Drive, Sullivan, Wisconsin.
Susan Ethier Stern, North 5683 Pioneer Drive, Sullivan, Wisconsin.
Thank you very much. Amy, if you could kick us off?
Okay, so if you look on the screen, the applicant has 4 legal lots of record. The 3 lots on the west side are very narrow, but there's a slight orange line in between. All of the lots are non-conforming. I have a table in the staff report that kind of explains the non-conformity. The unplatted lands to the east, which I don't have in the table, is 0.94 acres, just so that you know. What makes it complicated is that even if they did some combination or change of lots, the entire acreage is primary environmental corridor. So any land division is subject to a 1 unit per 5 acre density. But in this case, they're proposing to combine lots and make less lots. So they're going from 4 lots to 2 lots. And both of the 2 lots will obviously become more conforming. In fact, they will all conform to the zoning code. However, the land use plan has lake residential on the western lots, and then the eastern lot is rural estate, which is a minimum lot size of 2 acres. So because of that, their only option is to combine lots and have less than what they have today, if that makes sense. So with this land division, they're their certified survey map document does state that they have ingress and egress to Nagawickle Lake through the first phase of this subdivision, through one of the lots. The lot is actually owned by the lot owners on the lake, and they just have ingress and egress easement. So we do have a statement in here that we just want confirmation, written documentation, and the city needs to be satisfied with the past legal descriptions to ensure that that isn't changing from what's been accepted in the past, especially inclusive related to that ingress and egress easement. The surveyor has some minor comments that can be easily modified for common council. I'm suggesting that a note be added that a minimum of 4,800 square feet on Lot 2 be preserved in permanent non-disturbance zone, so a non-disturbance, no vegetation removal area. That's in order to comply with the Environmental Corridor Overlay District. It's not a lot, but when you have these really non-conforming lots, we're preserving what we can. That gives them the 32,600 square feet of disturbance that's allowed by code. And then that a note be added to the CSM that states each lot is limited to single-family residential use and related accessory uses as provided in the RL2 zoning district provisions of the zoning code. No multifamily residential uses are allowed. And then 3, the city shall receive documentation to its satisfaction verifying that those legal descriptions match past legal descriptions. And then the engineer did provide some comments. There will not be a need for any stormwater management. They're not proposing any infrastructure. They'll have 2 driveway access points. And the sewer extension and erosion control will all be managed through the building permit process with Scott. But there should be a note on the CSM that states that the location of the driveway and culvert sizing shall be determined by the city engineer prior to the issuance of building permits. And putting it on the CSM reminds us all that that needs to be done. So without any other questions, I do recommend approval to Common Council of a certified survey map to convert 4 legal lots of record into 2 lots of record for residential construction, provided all surveyor, planner, and engineer comments are met.
And would you mind just giving us an overview of, why you want to head down this direction and why you see it as a benefit to yourself and or the city or the future owner, whatever your plans are?
As they are now.
And if you could speak into the microphone, please.
As they are now, they're not usable. You guys, the city won't allow building 4 houses there, so the option was to make it into 2 lots that we could hopefully sell that way. We're obviously looking to sell them, but they were in Sue's family for years, but nobody's did anything with them, so we're going to move along.
So we would just like to meet all of the city coding correctly and make sure that they meet your recommendations and we can make them legal lots to sell.
That's a tricky I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, what properties do they have access to the lake through?
Oh, it's lot 5. Can you see that on whatever you're on? I can show you.
No, yeah, I guess everyone would benefit.
Okay, give me a second and I will show you. It's 1 lot. Just gonna go to one of these here.
This is like a shared easement with a different lot, or?
It is a
Yes,
shared.
there's 4 or 5 lots that already have houses on the south side of the road that also has that same access.
So it kind of disappears. Do you see that? That's lot 5. It's a vacant, narrow parcel.
Okay.
On the lakeside. And it's a little, it's a little strange because you'd almost think all of the lot owners on this, in this subdivision would have access, but they don't. It's not on all of their deeds. It's on the Stearns deeds. And maybe it's on a few of these, but I poked into several of them and it's not on those. So, but it's just ingress and egress, and it's more of a DNR thing, but I don't believe they have any rights to appear or improvements. It's literally to get them to the lake.
That's not for us to decide.
But it's not for the city to decide, but just something to know.
Because I'm just trying to separate it from, or maybe it's the same. I don't know if it's the same or not. I recall, and this goes years back, something to do with the lots to the east of it that are on the lake, where they're talking about some sort of a.
So they own it. That's all of the lot owners on the lakeside own this lot. It's owned by the lot owners of Anton's, whatever, Catarabac's First Edition, and that's actually the lakeside. Orange, what's in the orange on the lakeside is one addition, the addition that owns it. And then
Okay.
they've given access to the people on the other side.
For practicality, the general understanding would be, and we're just asking them to verify what facts they have to back up this assumption, that basically would have two lots, they'd have one access to the lake, and those two lots would then share that access.
Okay, I've got a fuzzy memory, and it's not a good time to air it out, right, when a public meeting, but I just remember something about the lots that are actually on the lake trying to either combine lots or something, and not too distant, I mean, this is in the last 10 years. I forget there was a technical legal issue that came up.
I think, are you generally speaking about pyramiding? Does that ring a bell or
no? No. But I get the gist of this. I mean, I understand we've got but it's so like I said, I don't mean to have a open brainstorming research session right here. But
let us know if you remember.
No, I recall. No, I just
It's
recall.
going to come to him in the middle of the night.
The same. I really hope I have better things on my mind.
We certainly wouldn't allow this moving forward. That's why we're asking for the written documentation that it's a historical situation.
And so how do we do these lot mergers in that without a public hearing for the adjacent lot owners? How is that not part of this? Just curious.
What do you mean?
Well,
So they're going from having 3 lots having access to the lake to 2 lots. And they had so this is why we're asking for the documentation, city's satisfaction. Their title company is stating that deed legally transfers from one deed to another because the combination of those parcels had legal access already. But it is something that our attorney needs to.
So since the use is the same, it doesn't really, I mean, the
But
residential
otherwise,
lots.
they meet, so they're taking 4 lots and making it 2 lots, so they're not, they don't really need a rezone or land use plan amendment. Those are the things that would require a public hearing.
Right.
Is the difference, though, it's also not actually on the water, it's got access? If these were lakefront properties, would we have to have a public hearing?
Not if they meet the zoning and land use plan and they're proposing a land division, it's Plan Commission and Common Council review and approval.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at the basic arithmetic is we basically have fewer lots with access to the lake, so it's kind of a plus.
I think the tricky or the challenging part is the driveways. I'm
Yes,
glad you're
that's
putting
what
that
I
on
wanted to
because
bring up.
I've been over there looking at it. I'm like, I don't know how you're going to fit that in, but possibly a shared driveway to both.
That's the only way I see
Yeah,
possibly
shared,
working
I
as a
think it's
shared
gonna
driveway.
be
So my question to you is that something that should be reviewed by Public Works? Should we make sure we recommend them to Public Works so that can
I
be
think
addressed?
that would be appropriate, yes.
I think that would, otherwise you might go through the CSM
At
process
least-
twice to.
And looking at vision around
Yes,
that
'cause
curve,
it's a very tricky.
it's a tough spot.
Yeah.
We just like to make it right.
I think it'd be hard. It's going to be difficult to get a safe single driveway. I'm not the expert,
Yeah.
but
No, I
I would
agree. I
find
think
it
it's
hard
gonna
to
be shared.
mentally figure out in my head how you're going to get 2 separate ones.
Steep slopes and
Yeah.
a curve. And
So do you want that to go to Public Works
I think it
before they
should.
go to council
Well-
then, right?
you wouldn't know where your driveway's going to be in the near future.
Yeah.
But we could lay out a spot where it has to be.
I
Your
would-
driveway
I
must
would
be here.
Assuming that they would all build on the west side.
That's the best. That's where I'm assuming too. It would be on the west side. I hear what you're saying, Kent, but we wouldn't have any vertical information on the hills, or we could.
But
You're
it's-
right.
it's
We could
the
plat it
west.
on that west side.
Yeah, if you're building on the west side, Garrison Court is right there also. That comes off.
That would be
So-
I think the farthest east you could go is Garrison
I
Court
agree.
with it, right?
Anywhere from Garrison
If you
Court
got-
west
let
would
some
be,
part that's non-disturbed, it would be that farther east point that goes to nothing anyway, so that would be the ideal. Your setbacks and stuff on that you wouldn't get anything to build there anyways.
well, I think it should go to Public
I do
Works.
too,
And
because I don't
your
like
idea. We
leaving
can
with the
maybe
building.
prescribe an area where
Yeah,
that should
I think
Preferably,
that's-
you want the easement on the CSM, so.
So,
They'd have to come before that plat is final then.
Should. They
Yeah.
don't have to, but it would be ideal.
so they should go to Public Works before they come to City Council, is that what I'm hearing?
I would make that part of your motion.
Yeah, I just don't, I think Scott would appreciate, the building inspector would appreciate the help, as opposed to two
Yeah.
different people coming in, owning two different lots, and then having to figure something out with them.
If we can look at it, Public Works, yeah.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Otherwise, we're looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the common council a certified survey map to convert 4 legal lots to a record into 2 lots of record for residential construction provided by the surveyor, planner, and engineering comments are met, and should include that it goes before Public Works Committee for review
Of the driveway.
of the driveway location.
I'll second that.
We good, Barb? Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. There you go.
What's the Public Works and what are we?
Why don't you
He's the
call me?
chairman.
Call me in the morning because you have to submit an
The
application.
next meeting is January 4th.
Thank you.
But you'll be in front of him.
We'll work on it. Thanks.
Thank
You
you.
too.
It'll
Merry
definitely
Christmas.
make things better.
Thank you.
Okay, number 10C, DLC 0786044, 2120 West Shore Drive, owner John and Heidi Kerr, applicant John Kerr. Applicant seeks site plan and appearance review approval for the after-the-fact construction of a retaining wall. If you just help us out with your name and number, and then I'll ask Amy to give us an overview.
John Kerr, 2120 West Shore Drive.
Okay. So this property is on the west shore of Lake Nagawicca. The applicant already constructed a retaining wall on the south lot line to help prevent drainage issues. If there's a picture in here where you can see the driveway is about the 4 feet taller than the neighbor's grade, and that's why they needed the retaining wall. Fortunately, it came through as a black and white photo into the city system, but here's the retaining wall that's already constructed. And the retaining wall ranges from 4 inches in height to 40 inches in height. It is about 12 feet from the road. You can't see that part of it. And he did have an engineer report completed, and the engineer does state in the report, which is in the packet, that it is stable and appropriate related to strength and serviceability. However, that report does include some conditions, and the city engineer also reviewed the engineering report and agreed with the statements and did agree that those conditions should be met as part of the approval. The applicant does have the cooperation and written support of the neighbor to the south related to the retaining wall, which is a requirement of the code. So just so you know, the Plan Commission review is related to retaining walls that exceed 3 feet in height and/or are located within the setback. So this retaining wall is within the 25-foot road setback at the 12 feet from the road and within the 8-foot setback. He doesn't have a survey to know exactly where it is from the lot line, but it's very close. And Scott Hussinger has a survey of the property due to recent construction, and so he said that during the building permit process, he would make sure, using benchmarks, that that retaining wall is where it should be on his property. Let's see if I have any other statements. So typically, the idea is to try to prevent the construction of retaining walls and use the natural topography whenever possible. This does look like a condition that would be really difficult to meet without the wall. So with that, I recommend, and the building inspector, Scott as well, recommends approval of the retaining wall construction subject to compliance with the suggestions provided in the report dated November 7th, 2022, and prepared by Matt Peer, professional engineer, chief engineering officer at Vector Strategies, LLC.
I just had a quick question. This is after the fact, but then you made a reference later in your comments about Scott would check into it during construction. They weren't jiving in my head.
Oh, I'm sorry. He said, so he has to go in and get like a formal permit. So I have to issue a certification of compliance to Scott, and then Scott has to issue a formal permit. And at that time, he said he would review the surveying data from, I don't know who recently constructed, you or your neighbor? You did.
Yep.
He would use
And it
that
was
survey.
we, right?
My wife did.
Yeah.
He said he would verify through that surveying data that it is indeed on his property. Because I was contemplating whether or not the applicant should have a survey done, but that is coming at a high cost in today's time and
So
hard to.
that was going to be my question. So if this is 4 inches over a line, what's the remedy then? What's the point of? I mean, I don't want to say we look the other way, but there's a wall that's there that wasn't through part of a approval process that needed to be. What is Scott doing with the survey line? If he snaps a chalk line and it's an inch over,
Just
what's gonna
making
happen?
sure that it's meeting the
Do
application.
they then need to come up with an agreement between the two property owners that may or may
The
not
neighbor to
involve
the
us?
south actually requested the wall. I was gonna originally just have it.
I understand. It looks like it's needed there. I mean, I
Right.
get it, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
but part of this is that Scott's gonna verify whose lot it's on.
Yeah, so if.
So if it's.
So we all think
a
it's
couple
on,
inches over,
we all think it's on the applicant's lot, but
Okay.
if it, for some reason went over the lot line, then it needs to be part of that applicant's record too. So, I don't know if they have to apply as the applicant or if they can provide the written documentation that they support
Okay.
this. He did provide written documentation that he supports the wall, but not as the owner of the retaining wall, as the neighbor of the retaining wall. So we would just want to make sure he's also the owner.
It's appropriate to know who's got the wall, because someone's gonna sell their property someday. But, okay, I get it.
So what, go ahead. I thought you were done.
I'm done.
Oh, you are? Okay. I was out there today and I was just kind of scratching my head over, was it the attached garage that brought that grade up? What was there
the whole
before?
house itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was
pretty
just
great.
sloped before then?
It was sloped. It was probably about 3-4 feet high, but there was, again, they brought up the grade when they brought up the house.
Got it.
So
Okay.
and then the neighbor, like I said, the driveway and his garage were flooding, so we just worked something out.
Oh, it's beneficial to both. It's needed.
All right, I'll make the motion to approve the retaining wall construction subject to compliance with the suggestion provided in the report dated November 7th, 2022, and presented by Matt Peer, PE, Chief Engineering Officer, Vector Strategies, LLC.
I'll second.
All right. Is there any additional comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Thank you very much for coming in.
All right.
Merry Christmas to you
Yes.
and your wife.
Yeah, she would have blamed you if you weren't here.
Okay, we'll move on to 10D. DLC 08029971760A Milwaukee Street. Owner of Waukesha County Capital LLC, applicant Jonathan Ropke. The applicant is requesting approval of a business plan of operation to operate an office and provide storage for a wood restoration and preservative company. If you can give us your name and address, and then we'll have Amy give us an overview.
Sure. My name is John Repke. My address is N18 W29534 Crooked Creek Road, Pewaukee, Wisconsin, 53072.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so this property is on the south side of Lake Nagawicca. It is the pretty bright blue building, if you can recall it, with residential units above, and then there's a hair salon on the bottom, and the applicant is operating out of the other side currently. The property is zoned B1A, which is a limited business and limited residential district. He's proposing an office and storage for wood restoration and preservation, and the wood restoration and preservation actually occurs off-site, but it's a place to operate his business. So the reason why he's not on the consent agenda is that the permitted uses listed in the zoning code do accommodate professional offices and other low-intensity retail and service uses, but the code for this district does state that business establishments shall be retail or service establishments dealing directly with customers. And so I just want to make sure that the commission is okay, or should consider whether or not this space, which is going to be used as an office and some storage to provide services off-site, is reasonable for this area. And customers do come by appointment between 8 and 5, Monday through Friday only. And then, John, you're the only employee, right?
As of now, yes, but everything kind of took off a lot last year, so I might be looking at hiring a person or two possibly. But right now, it's going to be used as mostly an office and a showroom. I'll have like some displays of stuff that I've done or pictures and stuff like that, where I can set up meetings and have people come in and take a look at past work and, you know, just have a place to chat with people and converse and whatnot, so.
And I would suggest then to just putting that in the record that you will have 3 or 4
Sure.
full-time employees.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's just a thought process. As of now, I'm still by myself, so.
I mean, the advantage if we included additional people on this process is then you wouldn't have to come back. All right, you know, and same thing with the hours. Are you comfortable with the hours that you're looking for?
Yeah.
You know, 8 until 5.
Yeah.
We can give it a range, right? 1 to 3 employees or 1 to 4 employees.
Yeah, it wouldn't be more than that, so.
Is there parking if you had is there parking there for 4 employees?
There's limited parking.
There's limited
Very
parking.
limited.
So I think I
That's a
have
good
2
question.
spots, so. We would have to arrange for something probably if that was the case. I didn't think about that, but.
It's a park and ride nearby.
There you go.
You can walk down.
It's a long walk.
There's
though.
a walking path. I mean, frankly, it's a tough area as far as traffic and pedestrians and everything else. I'd prefer to have a business that's doing by appointment only than, as well as the salon's probably doing. It's probably lower impact on the area if they didn't expand into your space and you took it over and had a couple of people there a day cutting deals. So I mean, I think it's a good idea.
I do too.
There's a good use for where it is. I can understand the appeal of having the spot there. You're right by the water and there's fish bones. And,
Yeah, beautiful area.
how'd you pick it? Just out of curiosity.
Just my son goes to Cushing and we're in the area here in Pewaukee and I just drove past it and I've been looking for a place. So I started the business this last summer, and so I'll be looking at starting my 2nd year, fully moved into the new place and really get going, so.
Is that Marine Place still? Is it?
I think that's what closed.
So that's probably the space.
I never understood what that was, but.
I didn't either.
I had a friend who lived in the condos there who walked down and bought something there, and I still don't know what the heck was in there.
I tried to find it on the internet. And
Yeah, actually, I think a roofing company moved in right next door to me too now. Phoenix Roofing. So you guys might want to look into that.
Are they in the same building?
They are.
Oh.
They're right next to me.
Yeah, I don't,
that
because
was
I drove
vacant
by.
in the middle there. I'm all the way on the left side, then the
Yeah.
middle is vacant, and then the right
Oh.
side is the hairstylist.
Okay, because I only saw signage for the hairstylist, right?
Yeah, I don't
That's the
even
only
see
thing,
signage.
yeah.
This is your neighbor you're talking about.
You
reported.
No, he's looking to expand, and that's a smart way to go.
Are you comfortable with 2 full-time employees with
Yeah,
the hours
that's
you're
fine.
asking? All right, I'll make a motion to approve.
If anything changes, I'll get back to you guys then.
Yeah, but then there's a fee and everything else. They're trying to help you not have to do that.
Yeah. So if
Okay, well, yeah, two is fine.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the business plan of operation to operate an office and provide storage for wood restoration and preservation company for up to 2 employees with the hours stated 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and hours of deliveries 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
I'll second.
Say it again. That's just an intern.
Hours of operation of 8 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and same for hours of deliveries.
I'll second.
I'm just going to make the comment, you are in a residential area, you have people living above you. Just, remember to be a good neighbor.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Courtesy always.
Yeah. And they should do the same.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
Good
Good
luck.
luck.
Yeah,
Have a
good
great
luck.
day. Thank you.
Okay.
We didn't vote.
All in favor?
We want to,
Before he runs out, we should vote.
all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Get ahead of myself.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes.
All right, thank you guys.
You have a good Christmas too.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
The power of the motion.
Looking to get out of here.
Yeah.
We were pushing his limit on ability to sit, I think.
Understandable.
Okay, number 11, comprehensive plan, zoning, and ordinance revision. Discussion and possible action on the following items. Discussion and provide feedback regarding the economic development focus group recommendations for the Area 5 downtown, including converting a portion of the area zone CBD2 to CBD1, modifying the zoning code text of the CBD2 district related to the bulk of a structure, and consider modifying the zoning district of the lands east of downtown from R3 to R4.
Okay. So I just wanted to bring this up because we are wrapping up our focus group efforts. This is the second to last item. So with downtown, we already did the Genesee Street dental clinic area, but there were a couple of extra items. So I just want to go over them for discussion, and then if you have any interest in moving forward, we can start processing that for future meetings. So the first item of recommendation from the focus group was to modify the area on the map that's in the hatched area from CBD2 to CBD1. So I don't know if you can see on the screen, but the area between Main Street and Wells, right on Genesee Street, is CBD1 in the light pink. And so the idea was to round out that entire block, because to the north of that, the entire block is CBD1. And then looking south of that, there's several businesses, including City Hall, that don't really comply with the standards of CBD2, and they fit better in the CBD1 district. And then it would also just square off the blocks again. And then it extends south to include the multi-tenant building just south of City Hall. And then past that, you have the residential apartments, and then I think there's the
Bank.
town bank, which is very established and creates a buffer zone to the residential district, or we don't know exactly what's going to happen with that. So that's why I believe that was left out of it. But it was stretched to include the multi-tenant building in case that were to ever come in for development. So there is a significant difference between CBD1 and CBD2. CBD1 is pretty much a free-for-all with no setbacks, no parking, no floor area ratio, and there's an available height increase, which you experienced with the 705 Genesee Street property. CBD2 does have a parking requirement. There's ways to get approval for nearby parking. There are 10-foot setbacks, there is no height increase, and there is a floor area ratio limitation of 50%. So any comments related to that possible? So this proposed change would not require a land use plan amendment, it would just be a rezone.
Parking has me concerned.
Yeah, me too.
As far as in the zero setback. I mean, those are the two distinct differences. Understanding how it flows with the rest of the area, but so that's a concern. And I think, going through the public, airing this out in public hearings and that, well, yeah, it would be a public hearing.
Yeah, the
I think
rezone.
that's going to, I would fully expect that to come up, and so there needs to be a clear path as far as how that potential uses and how that parking would be accommodated. Because that's going to be a continued stressor on downtown as different things get built. That's the extent of my feedback. I think it's from the business uses it's fine, but I'm concerned about the parking.
I don't quite remember why they wanted to change the lands east of downtown from R3 to R4. Can you?
I'll go into that. I'm
Okay.
just kind of going one thing at a time.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
what's interesting about these items is they would be city initiated. So we really wouldn't have a public hearing unless you would be willing to be the applicant to move it forward. And, as the applicant, you're pretty much condoning the activities. And there wouldn't be that with the land use plan amendment, you have a resolution at Plan Commission before going to public hearing. You could notify everyone. Normally, we notice everyone within 300 feet to come to a meeting for an informal discussion and start there.
That might be a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea if we can get out in front of it.
Right. Right. And it's courtesy to the people that own these properties that the zoning would change.
But like if parking is the issue, I mean, that's an issue regardless of what
Yeah.
people support.
Yeah.
Right.
And so
So
maybe
the-
a little more analysis needs to be done on parking before anything were to happen.
So the reason we're going through this list is because if there's things we want to change or drop or whatever, let's do it and not take it to the next step, right? That's kind of what the discussion is we're having here. And if you have concerns, but you think it can go to the next step, but you're listing those and you want more information on those, then the city is the applicant and the city will have to pay to have whatever questions you have answered through Amy's effort and hiring outside people if that's what it takes.
Well, I'll say, I'm concerned enough to say that I question why I'd vote in favor of moving this to CBD1. I need a bunch of convincing if I'm part of the application process, and also, I'm curious why this is an idea the city should be taking action on as opposed to a landowner to convince us. I mean, so I'd be more in favor of not fighting this fight.
Yeah.
Or going through the process, because I think the business owners are more likelier than not to come out saying, I'm concerned about parking and people taking spots I usually need for something that could potentially go in there, and I don't own the land. So I'm not saying that the focus group didn't have a good idea. I'm just I don't know that there's a solution to the parking situation.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about piecemeal, which why you brought it up in pieces. I'm cynical of this one, so I don't know. That's all I'm saying.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
me
was
too.
asking myself many times reviewing this, why? What is the
yeah.
advantage?
Right. Parking is a big
I think it
issue.
might get there someday. I don't know that
Correct.
it's something we should
Yeah.
promote.
Yeah, I'd almost like to see the new building go up and see how things function before we would take this step.
Yeah.
705 or whatever that one is over on Genesee Street, the Hendricks building.
Yeah.
There was an extensive downtown parking study done prior to that being approved, if we all remember.
Parking is always going to be an issue.
It's an issue.
You come down here on a busy day, woo. I walk down here sometimes. I'm glad I walk. That I don't have to park. So yeah, it can be. It's going to, as we get more and more businesses downtown, it's going to become more and more of an issue. So yeah, I don't think I want to fight this battle right now.
The CBD1 CBD2 in this area, Amy's showing on the map to CBD1, just to be clear on what we're all talking about.
I know. Yeah.
Everyone, Ed, Dan, Mike, any extra comments, or do you agree?
No, I was just looking at it more online here. No, unless somebody's driving it, why
There are no proposals right now, I can tell you that.
I get the point about wanting to clean it up for consistency, but
Okay, so scratch that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Agreed.
Yep.
Okay, then, on a similar note, I might be jumping ahead of myself. No, it's in the same, no, it's in the second paragraph. Okay. Modifying the text of the CBD2 Central Business District to limit overall bulk rather than floor area ratio was a conversation, in that the bulk would be regulated by setbacks and height. I think that came up during the focus group recommendations as part of several different conversations regarding floor area ratio being a bit challenging, and when you're downtown and you go up stories, it becomes very restricting because you're regulated based on each story. With that said, on that comment, I mean, you can propose what you want. These things do require or should include some analysis and ensuring you understand the implications of your decisions. And again, if the city does pursue a more in-depth code amendment, text amendments in general for the zoning code, this could be one of those topics that's considered as part of that bigger picture amendment. Or you could consider it separately or not at all.
Can you briefly go over, because I'm not remembering it, but if I recall correctly, isn't this something Scott is thinking is a good idea for CBD to do these calculations in this manner in that area versus the way that we currently do it in CB2? Am I remembering that correctly?
Well, I like building footprint more than floor area ratio. I don't know how, I think for Scott too, floor area ratio can get very complicated because you're dealing with unfinished spaces that are there regardless. So from the exterior, they're there. They're often illegally finished. And then you could have a one-story house that has the exact same appearance as a two-story house when the use inside is exactly the same. With cathedral, that used to be really popular with cathedral ceilings. I don't think it's as popular. So floor area ratio is a very difficult measure to begin with. So some communities are really pushing building footprint instead, and then managing the overall height and bulk through setbacks and height measurements instead. But again, you want to be careful about implications. So like in CBD1, you have a height increase. So you don't want to give credit for a height increase and have no other measure of bulk. So I do think that this topic is a really good one to discuss, but it probably crosses all district boundaries, not just CBD2. So unless somebody comes in here with an issue, it should probably be looked at a little bit more holistically. That's just my 2 cents. And I think Scott agrees with the complexities of floor area ratio. It's a difficult measure.
When we looked at the change in zoning for the height for what type of roof it was flat, gambrel, peaked, whatever, we got into this a little bit. And there was specific uses that were permitted in CBD1 that were, right? I mean, based on
I can tell you
based on what floor they're on, and it seemed rather convoluted. I mean, I think the footprint, discussing the bulk of the footprint makes a bunch of sense, and I think the floor area ratio is more about like intensity of use and how much you could pack into a building and worry about traffic and people. So I don't know that we necessarily have to consider it across all the. I mean, I think we do district by district and sort of see what the impact would be, because residential is different than the CBD.
Yeah, please, let's not go back to residential. We finished that one.
I know, yeah, we did. Yeah, for the same reasons, right? I mean, we're talking about people that finish to a certain level, get their approval, and then their carpenter cousin comes in and finishes it up. So I think it'd be worth pushing out there for a little while and get some data on.
I can add it to our list That, in that way, you mean, like
Yeah,
add it
think,
to the
put
list of big?
it number 8 out of 7 on our list right now, and
For
Leave it there
ever
for-
since Amy's been with us, something comes up where there's some kind of conflict or something could be more clear, and it's a running joke at the staff meetings, added to the list. Well, 2023 is the year of going after the things on the list.
Okay.
Just
Put
so
this-
you know.
put that last. I'd say put this last.
Yeah.
I don't, unless someone else, I mean,
I-
again, we don't have someone.
Right, I'm
with a-
fine, I'm fine
With a
with
desire,
that.
I mean, I'd like to see a catalyst to take action as opposed to building it and maybe they'll come.
Okay. Then the last one is extending the R4 district. So this included the Jim Barron property, and he is going to be applying separately for land use plan amendment, rezone, condition, well, the Legion has to amend their land use plan amendment and conditional use. And then he's proposing a plat. So he will be coming in separately on his own, but part of the focus group did recommend also changing Delafield Woods, which is between existing R4 and Jim Barron's property. And it probably, the lot sizes and the way it was developed probably fit R4 better than R3, which it's zoned. I will say the potential problem with that is it was approved as part of a plan unit development, and now we might start getting into mixing an already approved plan unit development based on that zoning and having a new zoning. And this is kind of one of those things too, where is it really worth it? The subdivision is there. Maybe it is. It's not a bad idea by any means, but something to think about. There's no real repercussions to leaving it as is because it's already developed.
Amy, was the Delafield Woods approved, the density approved because of the PUD? Is that, because there's 12 properties in that little section in there.
Yeah, it was a PUD, and it's, I think there's multiple parts to this, right? Is there a condominium that's, or condominium
Apartments,
development that's part, this was
Yeah.
before my time.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's
I
a
think it
couple
was-
different parts.
I think it was 2 parts.
Or
The
2
apartments
apartment
or-
buildings, and then there was
then the houses.
the houses. And a lot of discussion about the roads and the alleys. Alley.
I think you give up something when you, if you start changing things that are associated with a PUD because of how all the give and take was when they were developed in the first place. I mean, what was designated as an outlot or shared community space that maybe later on got acquired by a different property owner. Like I've got that, I know Mac Rimmer has it in his district where there's a PUD that involved a community tennis court that the subdivision, the homeowner association abandoned, and then another property just acquired it. And then they tried to do a property split, but the PUD said you only have so many units. And so it just would have, it's not horrible, it's just, we elected not to grant it because of that density that was already established, even though the zoning as it stood on itself would allow it. The subdivision development didn't because there was trade-offs elsewhere.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to get rid of them to make life easier. That's less research when someone comes in for a, right?
Yeah,
Just look at
well-
zoning versus all these individual one-off agreements, but
Right, and I think no matter what, it would be a PUD. That multifamily piece of it would definitely require a PUD, so.
Doesn't matter to me any,
no,
if we want to leave
If
it.
it's already existing
Yeah,
and
you
it's
can
not
leave it.
anything that's going to be redeveloped in the next
I
20,
don't see
25
that.
years, and that's
For
all
longer.
only part we're talking about now, keep it in there, why bother?
Right.
Would be my thought.
Right. Sure.
I believe that is it.
Yep.
Well, then, we get to move on to Binkowski. Is that right, Amy?
Yes, so I could
more to
probably do that next month.
Okay.
meaning February.
We will have.
At the end of the list, end of the list.
Yeah, I mean, I would anticipate that the subdivision Jim Barron subdivision to be coming in January, and that will start a formal process for the land use plan amendment and rezone. So we can talk about it as a staff to see if we want them both on there at the same time or 2 separate months.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, we are moving on to 12A, report of sitting officials, planning commission meeting dates and deadlines. Regular meeting is January 25th, 2023. The regular meeting submittal deadline is December 28th, 2022. I'll refer you to correspondence in the packet. Planner, do you have any report?
No, I do not.
Building inspector is not here, so therefore I take it he has no report. What's the next thing on the agenda? I didn't print the third page.
Adjourn.
Is it adjourned? Okay, I wasn't I'm missing something. Seeing no further business, we are now adjourned at 8:30 p.m. Merry Christmas, everybody.